Thursday's the day Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his accuser, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, will testify on Capitol Hill. Joining me now to discuss, Jenna Ellis, constitutional law attorney, and Heather Hansen, a trial attorney. Heather, let me start with you because a lot has changed since our conversation on Friday. More news stories, more accusations. Where do we stand with this?
Well, we stand with a number of juries of one. You know, each one of these senators is going to have to decide for themselves whether or not they feel each of the witnesses, Judge Kavanaugh, Dr. Ford, to be credible. And they're going to have to weigh that credibility, Charles, with their own personal biases, their own personal experiences, and decide whether or not any evidence that's out there, and we haven't heard about a whole lot. We're talking a little bit about calendars. We might hear about that. Her lie detector test, maybe that will come up.
What would that do for you? I mean, you're a trial attorney. If someone said, hey, first of all, I'm impressed. He's got a calendar from 1982. But, you know, if you looked at the calendar and it's filled in with all kinds of dates, you could see he was studious about those kind of things. And there was nothing around that area that this event supposedly happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because around that area is the problem. If she had said a specific date and there wasn't anything in his calendar, that would be easier. But both sides are going to be able to ask questions in order to sort of infer that these things are or are not true. The calendars will help. The lie detector test will help. The fact that there were inconsistencies between her report to her therapist and the number of people there will help his side. And I'm sure there's many things that he will say that will help her side.
Jenna?
Well, I agree with Heather that this does come down to really the juries of one, which are the senators. And what they need to recognize here is that Brett Kavanaugh has a long history of impeccable credibility, not only with the over 100 women now who have come out to say on the record that he has treated them absolutely professionally, that they would attest to his credibility, but the accusers here, and especially with what happened over the weekend, this has now become a trial by media, which is really unfortunate for the Senate confirmation process and for precedent. And I would disagree with Heather to the extent that, you know, if we were looking at what's actually on the record here, there's nothing on the record. The allegations that have been made are not anything. They haven't been corroborated. We'll see what happens if people even come to testify. But we do have a full and complete record with Brett Kavanaugh having 6 FBI background investigations. All of those things attest to his credibility and the presumption of innocence and all of the constitutional protections here, like confrontation of witnesses and fundamental fairness, should still attach.
But Charles, the fact of the matter is we don't know yet. We don't know what the record will show. We don't know what she'll testify to. We don't know what evidence will come up at the hearing. That's why Thursday is going to be so very important. You know, we can talk about a lack of expert witnesses and so forth, but look back at Justice Gorsuch. None of this came up with him. And now we've got at least 2 women and words of others that are sort of being floated around.
What do you make with the Ramirez? I know that the story is evolving, but coming into the studio, the most recent thing was that Ronan Farrow ran with the story that the New York Times could just themselves said they spoke with former classmates, that she actually was calling around these former classmates to ask about this incident, and none of them could help her out. Like, you know, and she herself admits that she's very vague. How seriously should this impact Thursday, and should this become another event?
I don't think it should impact Thursday. I think Thursday's event should be Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh talking about these issues and answering the questions. The Ramirez thing, I agree with you, seems a little bit more sketchy. The fact that she couldn't remember herself and was testing her own recollection by talking to her friends, that's a lot that a trial attorney can work with on cross-examination. But I think Thursday is going to be focused upon these 2 people speaking to the issues at hand, their history, all the things that a jury has to weigh credibility on.
The bottom line of the jury is the American public, right? Not even those senators per se, but the American public, because ultimately this issue, I think, Jenna, is about abortion. I think ultimately this issue is about the Democrats being able to campaign on it and perhaps even, you know, take advantage of it in the midterm elections. But having said that, there's a very special interview tonight, Martha McCallum, with Judge Kavanaugh and his wife. Do you think that's a smart move ahead of Thursday?
I absolutely do. And because Brett Kavanaugh has been prepared to tell the truth from day one, and he has said that he hasn't needed to consult with a bunch of lawyers to take his time to get his story straight. He has said from the moment he even heard about the anonymous allegations, he has firmly come forward and said that he denies them. So the fact that he's willing to state that on the record before a confrontation of witness really shows to his credibility, and I think he presented himself well. But I agree with you, Charles, that this issue, why we didn't see this with Gorsuch, is because Roe v. versus Wade, and a conservative majority was not on the line. So I would encourage all women voters to get out there and make sure the Democratic Party does not reflect your values.
Real quick, is it a good idea for this interview or not?
I don't think so. It gives something else for there to be cross-examination on.
All right, thank you, ladies. Thank you both very much.
Thanks,
Always
Charles.
appreciate your legal minds.